Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood. So there's no...
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. Today's music is called Undertow with Amy Barnes. Today, meet Professor Bargdill, who argues that every time we dream, our soul gets schooled. He says they prepare us for the future and reflect back to us our past. We will also talk about dream inversions and how our dreams are not about wish fulfillment, but to encourage us to keep going. Check out his new book, A Dreamer's Thought Book, Intriguing Ideas About the Dreaming Process. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. We're also a weekly podcast, so you can always listen to us there if you're busy on Saturday morning. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps the algorithm in our favor. Let the algo know that dreamers care about dreams. But most importantly, as I like to say, tell your friends. This is a show about getting people talking about dreams. And why not tell them about the podcast? You can find archives at Apple and Spotify, all those places. Also at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Okay, so I'm going to start with my personal dream work. I just woke up this morning with a roller coaster dream. It was just up and down, and I kept waiting for the part where it gets spun around upside down, and it never seemed to quite come, but I was always trying to get ready for it. In this big car, kind of like a gondola, with these beds where we were supposed to be strapped in. And unfortunately, the bed where I was supposed to be strapped in had a couple of, I don't know if they were really dead, but a couple of people who did not look very nice to be with. And so I never really got strapped in. But there's something about the roller coaster, and I've had some emotional issues in my life. Okay. Richard Bargdill is an associate professor of psychology at Virginia Commonwealth University. Dr. Bargdill is the author of 6 books, including the newly published A Dreamer's Thought Book, Intriguing Ideas About the Dreaming Process. His professional publications cover topics such as boredom, depression, meaning-making, and dreaming. It's Richard Bargdill, Bargdill, and you can find about him on his webpage, dreammetaphors.com. Hey, Richard, good to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
Okay, excellent. So you do have this new book, Dreamer's Thought Book, Intriguing Ideas About the Dreaming Process. And I was particularly, you sent me like a list of topics like I always ask for my guests. And I was particularly intrigued with the idea of dreams as soul school. And I wonder if you could say some more about that. We'll get into your background a little more in a few minutes. But I wanted to start right in with the main topic about soul school. What does that mean? And maybe you could give an example.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying there is that dreams are an opportunity to learn about yourself. Mm-hmm. They're not just random, images and so forth like that. They present an opportunity to explore your personality, meaning that in a dream, it's a hypothetical situation. It shares some similarities to real life, but there's some different, things happening on there that are not quite real. But as you work through the dream scenario and what's happening, your character, your dream me is what I call it. Your dream me is doing various things, and when you wake up, you often have the opportunity to reflect on, boy, is that what I would really do in life if I was presented with this particular scenario? Is this how I would behave? And then oftentimes there is a difference between what you think you would do in that situation and what your dream character does. So that means that, in a sense, dreams are kind of practice for life. You're getting reps in, on different scenarios that are played out in the dream, and you have the opportunity to kind of ask yourself, boy, is that the person I want to be? If this is my first, attempt at this scenario, this behavior, do I like that? And so that's why you can learn from that and say, I may never face that exact situation, but I'm more likely going to face something similar to it.
Well, I love your distinction between dream me and I don't know what you call it, waking self me, because fairly often I'm in a dream and I'm like, well, do I really do that? Like there is. I wonder if you could have an example of if either your dream or somebody you've worked with, how that was helpful.
Yeah, so I just had a dream last night, and I'll give you an example of what happened and how I interpreted it. So it was a dream where I was infiltrating a Nazi organization, and I was trying to act like I was one of them. And they discover at some point I am an imposter, and they're going to confront me. And in the dream, at the end, they're going to hurt me.
Meaning you're an imposter Nazi, that you're not really a Nazi? Is that what?
I'm not really one. And I was trying to infiltrate the group, and they catch me. And they're about ready to, I think, torture me or something like that. And the dream ends with me kind of just standing there passively. Mm-hmm. When I wake up from the dream, I have I want to finish it, in the way I want. And I was like, well, why didn't I attack them first? I mean, at least, they're gonna injure me, and I might as well get a free swing in at the guy. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't really about Nazi. I don't think it's about the lesson is sometimes we have to attack first, right? When in doubt, attack, or you might as well be the aggressor in this particular situation because it's going to end up bad. So I think that the comment the dream is making to me in some way is that you have to be more assertive here, right? There's something in your life where you need to be on the attack rather than on the defense.
Right.
And so that becomes, then you have to sort through what's going on in your life right this moment, where that's a good piece of advice.
Right, because it's probably not true in general. We prefer not to be the aggressor in most situations, but maybe there's a certain situation in my life where I am being too passive. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not about violence.
Right.
I don't think. These are just metaphors, and I like to think of dreams as sort of visual shortcuts. They're trying to tell you something, but there's an easy way to do it, and there's a hard way to do it, right? Your dreams almost never have lectures in them. No one's talking to you. It's at least my dreams are constant action. You're always doing something. So there's not a lot of, they're not verbal. They're visual. And so sometimes when I want to make, sometimes when your unconscious wants to make a point, it's going to use something that's easy for you to remember and understand and so forth.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So I like that. This is an interesting way to think about dreams, and they're certainly, like, they put you in a really feeling place where there's something that is familiar from waking life, like that. Not the situation necessarily, like, being in a Nazi gang is probably not something that's happened to you in waking life.
Yeah, no, that is not happening.
Right. So seeing through the metaphor, and that's why your webpage about dream metaphors is so right on. It's like what is the metaphor for, and of course I find this often like a whole layer of situations, not just one. So the metaphor can be very deep, applying to many different situations.
Yeah, I think like in this dream I just gave you, some of I call them dream idioms. So I think that dreams are trying to talk to us. They're trying to tell us stuff, and they're using a visual language to say something very poignant. So, like in this dream, it's kind of like strike first. The element of surprise is important. Seize this opportunity to act first. Those are all the kind of the idioms that are being sort of told to me through the dream, and that's how I like to interpret it. Let's just take the dream images and see if we can find a common saying in our language that is what it represents. So a quick example is a lot of people have this dream where they're in a vehicle and they start going down a hill, and then they go to put on the brakes and the brakes don't work.
Oh, yeah.
And so they start swerving around these vehicles and so forth, and eventually they see at the bottom of the hill they're going to have to turn left or right, and they're going way too fast to do that. So in my sort of interpretation, you're getting a message in your life that you're going downhill fast, meaning that something is out of control in your life. It's probably not your car. We don't want to take this literally. That's why it's a metaphor or an idiom. There's something in our life. We should be able to figure that out pretty quickly, what it is. But we're not in control here, and we're not slowing ourselves down when we should. And so if we take that image and just say, hey, what is the, titrate it down to like just a sentence or so, and you can often find out that, there are some things I'm doing that I could be a little bit better, in better control of them.
Okay. Right. Well, maybe this is a chance to talk about dream inversions. Like you've mentioned, there's several different kinds of inversions that dreams tend to offer, and I wonder, if you have an example of that, and say, well, so what is an inversion? And I know you mentioned several different kinds, and then give some kind of example of what an inversion is and how it's helpful, how it's in a dream.
Yeah, so I had a dream that was very powerful, and what I realized is that something I had done during that day was then done to me in the dream. So it took an action that I had done to someone else, and it just flipped it on me. It made me do it. So the quick of it is that someone asked me to read some of their poetry, and I'd done that before, and no one seemed to really care for any of my criticisms. I might say, hey, you might want to change this word to this and that, and they'd be like, nope. And so I had the experience of it's not really seems to be helpful to them. So they asked me if I'd read theirs, and I politely declined. That night, I have this dream where I'm an astronaut. I've wrecked on a planet, and I need to get to the North Pole where my mothership can pick me up. That's the only place they can pick me up at. And so I run into a person, and I ask them for help, and they say, no, I don't know. I can't help you. I can't help you. I'm like, I'm going to be stranded here for the rest of my life if you don't help me. And I really have to beg the guy, and he eventually gets me. He doesn't take me himself, but he gets me to this other group who go up there to do some kind of ceremony. And so I woke up after that dream, and I knew exactly what it meant. It meant that I was supposed to, someone asked me for help, and I turned them down, and it just said to me, how would you like it? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you in that scenario. So it's almost, I call that one a karmatic inversion, because it's going to take something that I did, and it's going to make me feel it.
Right.
And so if you wake up from a dream and you say to yourself, boy, that was really unpleasant, you might ask yourself, hey, did I do that to somebody?
Ooh, that kind of gives me goosebumps. Right. So you know what this reminds me of, though, Richard, is it reminds me of what I've heard of near-death experiences, like when you have the life review and you find out like how who you've been has affected the people around you, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good.
Right, and this is more immediate.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about this was I contacted that person. I said, send me those poems, and they knew something had happened. They're like, wait a minute, yesterday you said, You said no to that. What happened? And I told him I had this dream, and if you would have hear this dream and you weren't sort of, sensitive to him, you would think it was just a nonsense dream, but it totally wasn't. So let me give you an example of a relationship inversion.
Sure.
So my father has passed away a couple of years now, and since then I've had a lot of dreams about him. But in this one dream, I'm in midlife, and he's treating me in a way that I don't particularly like. He's trying to force me to do something in the dream that I don't like. And what made me think about it was that he's no longer alive, and he doesn't hold that sway on me anymore. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that I was doing something similar to that to my son.
Oh.
My son was undecided in college and all this. I'm trying to get him to pick some kind of major and all this stuff. And, I wasn't twisting his arm, but what the dream was doing, it was showing me that if my dad did that to me, I wouldn't like it. Right?
Okay.
So when I think of father, I think of my dad, but this dream was trying to tell me something by using my dad, but it was really about me and my son. So you have to, if you have a child and you have a dream about your own father or your own mother, it may be your dream about your own father is commenting on how you're fathering,
right.
rather than about your upward relationship. It's actually speaking about your downward relationship.
Interesting. Well, that's a kind of then makes sense why a lot of times there'll be a character in a dream that someone I know from waking life, but they're not behaving the way I would expect them to in waking life. So they have. Yeah. So maybe it's more about me than it is about them.
Yeah, I think to a lot of extent that the characters, even if we recognize them, if we see them, they're only our understanding of that person, right? It's not really them. It just looks like them. So, as an example, there was a character from grade school that I'm 40 years old, 50 years old, and this person keeps popping up in my dream. I'm like, that wasn't even an important person to me when I was there. Right. And this is what I think Jung means by archetype. So this person's in my dream, they're a real person, and I tried to figure out who was this person. And one of the things about her was that she was kind of a popular person, but then her parents remarried, and her sister came in, and her stepsister, and she was very attractive, and everybody kind of forgot about the original girl, and they were only interested in her for her connection to her stepsister. So when something like that happens, and this person keeps popping up in a dream, I think when you say to yourself, is there someone who's being not recognized? Is there someone are people using a particular person to get to another person? And you have to kind of just think of the dynamics of who that person was, and then ask, is that happening in your real life? Is somebody, is someone snuggling up to someone to get to someone else, right?
And is that something that's been happening in my waking life that is hurting my feelings maybe, or something related to?
Or do I feel like I'm not being recognized because people just want to recognize my spouse or whatever, those sort of things. And, that's a complicated example of it, but I think those people who, they haven't been in your life enough that they, but they keep appearing in your dreams, you have to kind of work out who they were or what happened to them that might make them a interesting character for your life.
Okay. Oh, I love that. So there's... I'm a little torn here. I have two different questions in my mind of which way to go here. I guess I'll say, well, what is, once we know about this inversion, whether it's somebody's done this, I'm it's showing me what I've been doing to others, or I'm recognizing how it is. Like, what do we do about that? Do you think just the awareness of that is enough to shift who we are in the moment, or do we, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What comes next? Yeah.
I think we can correct ourselves, and once we become sensitive to it, we have the opportunity to learn from that. That's why it's school for your soul.
Right.
Dreams are not just I think they're really messages from yourself to yourself. Mm-hmm. So they're like an intra-personal message, because it's coming from you to you, and sometimes we can't figure out exactly what it's trying to tell us, but a lot of times it's acting as a reprimand, a comment, going downhill fast. Maybe you got to get a little better control of yourself, right?
Right.
So a warning, a commentary, a reproach. Sometimes it can tell us a little bit about the future, and so on. It's we're being trained a little bit by our dreams if we take them seriously, write them down, and kind of reflect on them and investigate them.
So there's one more kind of inversion that you told me about that is a positive one. That's what you call it, a talent inversion.
Well, a talent inversion, yeah. So I think they can all be positive. I mean, I'd rather be told that I made a mistake and then be given the opportunity to address that mistake rather than not be told at all.
True, yeah.
A talent inversion is one where I had a series of dreams where I've had the opportunity to experience things that you can only dream about. You can only dream about experiences. Playing golf with a famous golfer, right. Being on stage, or having a songwriter that I really like, tell me that I wrote a good song. And I'm trying to think, well, is this just, Freud is famous for saying that, all dreams are wish fulfillments. And, I could be happy with that and just say, oh, I finally got to play golf with Tiger Woods in my dreams.
Right.
And, dreams feel pretty real. So, what's the difference?
Right.
What's the difference if you didn't really get to play with it? Well, it felt real. I got all the joy out of that experience. But I think really what I say it's an inversion is this person's very successful at something and I'm not, right? Bob Dylan's a great songwriter. I have not had the same success. So is it just, you're having a cheap thrill by getting to experience this? And I don't think it is. So I think it's a talent inversion. And so what I'm suggesting is that it's an encouragement. I'm not Tiger Woods, and I'm not Bob Dylan, but you know what? Keep at it. Bob's here saying you're doing okay.
Oh, right. I love it.
What else could you ask for?
Well, listeners will know that I have many, many dreams about playing ukulele up on stage and singing. I had a dream recently, a couple nights ago, about just singing, really enjoying singing, and I take that as encouragement. That's great.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Hey, keep at it. You don't know. If you're getting some joy out of that, and you're like, everybody who's an artist has a moment where they doubt themselves and they're like, what should I keep doing this, or should I not do this, or is there maybe I'll just watch TV. And
right.
And the Bob Dylan dream is on there saying, no, you're all right. You got something. Keep going. Make some more art.
Love that. So it can be really encouraging as well, really helping us
right.
go forward. And it isn't all about scolding, oh, you made that mistake, and oh, you should have been nicer there. But like, oh, don't forget that. That's really good. Keep doing that.
Right. Keep at it. Find the joy. Sometimes when we're, working on projects, we're too critical of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Our perfectionism comes up, and sometimes we have to remember just have a good time. doing it.
Yeah. Along those lines, before I go to the break, I there's a word I came across on your webpage that I want to reflect back to you because I had never heard this word and I thought it was great, called nightmirth.
Yeah, I made that word up.
Yeah.
That's probably why you don't yeah. But the idea is, everyone knows what a nightmare is, right? Nightmare is you're scared. But I want to remind people that dreams are funny too. They put you in funny situations. There's been numerous dreams where instead of waking up fearful and scared, I wake up laughing. It's laughter that makes me wake up. So that's nightmirth. It's so funny what happens that you're laughing about it, and so dreams are funny too, and they put us in really unusual situations. That's why I think that dreams are more almost like a download that we're getting. We're getting an update in our software. We're getting updated, and it's doing it by putting us in all these unusual situations, showing us, life is funny, amusing, absurd, and so on. And just hang in there, human being.
I love that. That's a great message. I think that's fabulous. Well, let's let that take us into the break. We're going to have a brief break to do a little programmatic stuff here. I want to let you know you are listening to Professor Richard Bargdill from Virginia. And we are talking about dreams and metaphors and dreams as soul schools. The name of his book is A Dreamer's Thought Book, Intriguing Ideas About the Dreaming Process. It's available now anywhere you want to look for it. So we are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in KCXU in San Jose. Welcome back to the Dream Journal. I want to welcome our far-flung listeners. We have all the local folks, Santa Cruz, Aptos, Watsonville. We also have Los Angeles. We've got a listener in British Columbia, and we have 3 listeners in Virginia. So welcome to the Dream Journal. We also have a listener in Secaucus, New Jersey, and another one in Florida. So it's nice to hear the Dream Journal getting around. Okay, you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook by following #TheDreamJournal, or you can follow @Experiential Dreamwork. But I put out promotions for upcoming shows, and whenever the pods are dropped on Mondays, you'll be the first to know if you follow me on #TheDreamJournal. So today's guest is Richard Bargdill, a professor in Virginia. And we are talking about his new book, The Dreamer's Thought Book, Intriguing Ideas About the Dreaming Process. So we do indeed have a caller right away.
Hello?
Kai from Miami.
Yeah, that's me, Kai.
Kai, wonderful. Thanks so much for calling. Thanks for listening. What can we do for you?
Well, I'd like to share a dream that I had.
Perfect.
That was important for me.
Perfect.
All right. So I had a dream during my first week of my PhD program at Pacific Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara, and that was very significant for me. I dreamed that I was walking alone on Pacifica's land from the dining area toward the south building, appreciating its beautiful gardens. During that walk, I look to my right side, and instead of seeing the main building, I noticed a small cemetery. The cemetery resembled an old cemetery with elevated and ornate cement tombs. All the individual tombs had crosses on the top with each of my cohorts' names, making the presence of my cohorts and me there. I also saw the names of my professors written on the tombs. The cemetery had a feeling and weight of commitment and knowledge through deep education. I still can feel right now the respectful and reverential energy that I felt there during my dream. I notice when I go to and that's the same feeling that I have when I go to cemeteries. While I was observing the cemetery, I had a strong feeling, an inner voice said, "We are all buried in the grounds of Pacifica." My intuition at the moment during the dream informed me that the voice was referring to us having an experience not only on the grounds of Pacifica, but also metaphorically in the underground ground of the Psychological Institute. In addition, I felt our destinies were filled with a deep personal journey to Pacifica's underworld that has a Jungian orientation. I knew, I'm the end of that, I knew at the moment that I was in the right place at the right time. My doubts about being in the correct PhD program disappeared. I realized that I did not choose my program. The psych chose me for the program. So my view changed during this, the understanding of this dream.
Right.
So I looked at this left side and saw all these small cemeteries. Then I woke up.
Thank you, Kai. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
So,
welcome.
so Professor, were you able to hear the dream? Do you want to talk to Kai a little bit about what comes up for you? How would you?
Yeah, I can. I mean, the thing that strikes me there is that it's a positive example of how maybe the concept of death, being seeing your name on a tomb, doesn't mean the real death, and we understand that because Kai was suggesting that it was a positive, or at least my take was that your emotional understanding wasn't of horror or grief, but it was actually a very positive experience. Is that kind of what you were suggesting there?
Yes, I felt as a positive experience. Yeah, and usually cemeteries have that very heavy connotation, but that's not how I felt during the dream.
Right, that's a good example of where you really need to follow the emotion of the dream, and it's not, death doesn't mean death, like, oh, I'm going to die or I'm going to die soon. It means, a lot of times, the same with sort of a tarot reading, the death card doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to die today, but it means oftentimes something has come to an end. One part, in this case, I think it's pretty clear, one part of my life has come to an end. Who I was before entering these grounds is a different person, and now I see my tomb. That person who I used to be prior to being here is over, and I'm now a new person. I'm observing the end of this section of my life where I was before Pacifica, and now I'm alive, and I'm able to experience the beauty of being on these grounds and being alive in a different way than I used to be alive.
How does that resonate, Kai? How does that
I
feel?
love it. I think, yes, it's about a journey, right? And start a new journey. And I was in doubt at the time. Am I in the right place? Is this the right thing for me to do right now in my life? And the dream came as it was a symbolic for me dream that yes, you are at the right path. Now it's with you to walk on it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
I'll mention, another kind of issue like death is that sex for Freud, he thought sex always meant sex, and if you were having sex with someone who was sort of taboo, that meant you wanted to do that. And I just don't think that that's accurate. Just like death doesn't always mean death, I don't think sex always means sex. It's sometimes a shortcut, and this is what I was saying earlier about a visual shortcut. It may be saying to you that this person has turned you on, right? Turned you on intellectually. Maybe it's intellectual turn on, and then there's the sexual act in the dream. It can, it could mean a lot of things. It can mean compassion. I really care for this person, or I'm really, maybe it's about love. Maybe it's about a lot of things. But sex is just the easiest way to show that sort of deeply human spark between two people. That doesn't have to be sex, but how else do you represent it quickly and in a way? So. Just as pregnancy as well doesn't necessarily mean you're pregnant. A woman has a dream about being pregnant. Of course, it could be about that, but it also can represent something is growing in you. Something's growing in your, you're growing as a person. And the easiest way to show that is you're getting bigger.
Getting ready to bring forth new life.
You're expanding as a person.
Right. It's interesting. There was a article about dreams in the New York Times recently. It was actually in the form of a quiz, and I didn't do very well on the quiz, which is ironic. I wish I work with dreams. But one of the questions had to do with sex in dreams, and they said that according to the particular study that sex dreams are between 7 and 10% of all dreams, and that seems really high to me. But I did recently have a sex dream, which I shared on the air a few weeks ago, and it was more about myself, really, I think, than about relationship. And I think sometimes it is about kind of making friends with those feelings in the body, but it wasn't necessarily about the moment itself as much as how I was feeling in the dream. And so that ties in again of follow the emotions. Like if there's something, the dream about death had a lot of sadness in it, that would be very different. There was some sadness in this, but there was mostly a feeling of yes, I made the right choice and this is a good thing. And
yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, Carl Jung is going to say that dreams are helping us process strong emotions. So it's one of the functions of a dream is to take something that is really powerful and can be quite poisonous if we don't do something to it. And the dream helps mellow it out a little bit. And he goes on to say that if we don't address our strong emotions, we adopt an attitude, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That's repression. And then what he's going to go on to say is that makes your unconscious dangerous. It's the fact that you don't deal, because human emotions are extraordinarily powerful for us, and we have to process them almost. And dreams are one of the ways that kind of take them and contextualize them, even recontextualize them, and then let a little bit of the steam out of them, because we get to experience it again twice. Whatever happened to us in our daily life, and then they kind of process it a little bit and let a little bit of the steam out of it, and that helps us not build up. And repression is what builds up that emotion and makes it dangerous to us.
I like your idea of letting off a little steam here, because this is a question that's been floating around my mind, that if these dreams are messages from myself to myself, I'm sure missing a lot of them, because we all sleep through most of our dreams. Like I remember, 3 or 4 dreams a week or something, but I'm having 5-6 dreams a night. And so most of the dreams anybody ever has, we don't even remember. And certainly mammals and all the other animals that have dreams that science is showing more and more, Surely, as far as we know, they don't talk about their dreams or even think about them. And so maybe there's something that the dreams are doing just as they are, even in the unconscious. If we don't even bring it to light and never even remember it, never mind tell it to somebody else or draw it or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Now, you could get better at dream recall. I'm writing down, and it's a labor, but about 3 dreams a night, every day. Very rarely do I miss a night of having any dreams. So you can get better at that by setting the intention. I want to remember my dreams. My dreams are important to me. I want to remember my dreams. My dreams are important to me. You say that a few times before you go to bed. But when you wake up in the night, you got to make a couple of notes there about what the dream is, and it has to be legible too.
Right.
And then you'll usually in the morning you'll get it all back, or a great portion of it. But to return to kind of why I think dreams are school for your soul is, you're correct. We're getting some kind of dream message that we're not even recording, or it's not becoming conscious. So to me, I think we're, like I said before, these are like downloads. We're getting, some of the dreams are so wild, it's hard to understand what's going on. There's people who are in quantum physics and stuff are talking about the differences between space-time, which is what we live in, right? Space is very solid. You're not going to be able to walk through a wall. Chair's going to be there until you move it. Space-time. But it almost appears as if in a dream we're dealing with time-space, meaning that in that dream, you're at one point you're in one location, and then suddenly, without any transition, you're in a new location, right? So time is lurching. I'm in this scenario. I was at my house. Suddenly, I'm in Paris,
Right.
Walking around. So what this concept of time space rather than space time might suggest that we're being kind of programmed for evolution, which is our next, the next dimension time is going to be a lot different than it is here, and we're getting a little practice.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
We're getting a little practice of lurching in time, where all of a sudden you have to just sort of walk into a scenario without much preparation. If you ever saw, there's an old TV show called Quantum Leap, and that's what they were portraying. You just kind of get plopped in a situation. You don't even have caught your bearings, and now you have to work through the scenario. And that's what how they see time as being different, in different levels, different dimensional levels. It's not as solid as it is in where we live right now.
So is this some hypothetical future, or is this like after we die? I'm not sure what you're proposing.
Well,
that we're being prepared for, right? What?
Well, yeah, it would be. It's kind of like levels of consciousness, right? So we're not at, according to these ideas, we're not at the highest level of consciousness. There's levels above us.
Well, I hope so. I think I have a long way to go.
Just like animals have some consciousness, but they don't have the same level of consciousness maybe that a human does, right? Mm-hmm. So we're starting to say that there's different levels of being sentient, different levels of consciousness. An animal clearly has emotions and is sensitive to things. They don't have the ability to do what we do, but we may not have the highest level of consciousness that there ever is. So we seem to be the top of the food chain in our world now.
So far.
But if there's other beings and so forth in other levels, we're probably not the top in the universe, right?
Interesting. Well, there's that famous quote of the dreams are the workshop of evolution.
That's a great quote. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
school for the soul. We're getting, there's a famous statement by Chuanzi, who was an ancient Chinese Taoist, and he says, I had a dream of being a butterfly, or was I a butterfly dreaming of being a human?
Mm-hmm.
So what could that mean? That might mean that we're being prepared to experience. What's a dog dreaming about? Chasing a cat? What's a baby dreaming about? What could a baby possibly be dreaming about? Are they getting information from, are they getting the same sort of dreams we are? That would mean they're getting experience. You're gaining experience vicariously through your dream situation.
Right. Well,
I've
heard that babies dream like more than older kids or adults. They dream like all the time in the womb. They have they dream.
Right.
Tremendous. What are they dreaming about? I mean, you're right. It's a good question. Huh.
I think they're probably getting networks made. When you dream and I dream, we're dreaming about wild things. I've had the ability to fly. I've been to Mars. I've been to, I've experienced some things that I've never experienced other than through the dream. So, I assume that animals are experiencing that when they're dreaming too. They're not just dreaming of ordinary dog life.
Right.
Right. They must be dreaming. They must be dreaming about. They could possibly be dreaming about being human. Maybe that's why I think it is evolutionarily helpful for us. It's school for our soul.
Well, Richard, this is amazing. This is Richard Bargdill, and we have really gone into outer space, and I love it. This is where else but the Dream Journal can you be talking about the evolution of humanity and where we might be in the next 1,000 years or a million years, who knows, of evolution, what our dreams are preparing us for. So, again, Richard Bargdill, so good to have you on the show. The webpage is dreammetaphors.com. Do you have any brief final words, encouragements you'd like to say, just briefly?
Yeah, I would just say also, keep your eyes, if you have animals in your dreams, we were just talking about dogs, remember what the animal is represented psychologically. So a chicken, we kind of think about, if we called a person a chicken, we'd call them a coward. So if you have a dream with a chicken in it, use sort of like the psychological idea of that animal and ask, hey, is someone in here being cowardly? Am I being cowardly? Am I being told here to be a little bit more courageous, and so on? So all animals, I believe all animals are really psychological human emotions. A dog, you have to consider it being your best friend. You have a fight, but the dog bites you, might be about having a conflict with your best friend and that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, really, this is good stuff. Thank you so much, Professor Bargdill. Good to have you on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care. All right, well, thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz. We are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org if you want to join the conversation. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. My name is Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at catherine@ksqd.org, KATHERINE@ksqd.org. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, also Tony Russimano. Intro and outro pieces are by Mood Science, and this background music, beautiful background music, also Mood Science with the wonderful Amy Barnes. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Where